Let's go to video right now of that chase. We have some of the sound also. We want to bring you this.
Texas. Oh, God, they're shooting right there.
That is outside Synergy, where you can see the suspect hijacked a postal carrier vehicle.
Yeah,
Police believe so. Only one suspect. He did have a criminal record.
Hi, Eddie, Katie. Yeah, we are here at the Synergy location here where law enforcement are continuing to comb through evidence.
And MCH had some excellent coverage of this tragedy. Let's hear that.
This is not an urban community here, but this happened here.
Big Two's Jocelyn Person, who is there right now going live for us. Hi, Jocelyn.
Katie, Eddie, Governor Abbott just arrived. MCH was told that he's visiting one of the victims.
State Representative Brooks Landgraf stopped by our studio today. We talked to him. Let's go ahead and play that. In studio right now with our State Representative Brooks Landgraf. Thank you so much for being here.
Election night coverage starts now.
We are your local election headquarters. The polls have closed, the votes are in, and we have the latest results. Good evening. I'm Eddie Flores.
And I'm Katie Orth. Let's get to the results. For Midland County Sheriff, it looks like David Kreiner is in the lead.
Well, we have much more to come, but if you missed the results from the first part of our newscast, you can find all the results at our website, yourbasin.com.
Now, again, we do have a reporter on the ground out there in an RV park that sustained some damage. Jian Kim, what can you tell us?
Chase, a devastating evening out here. This is Jian Kim coming to you live from a small town of Orla, just north of Pecos.
There are many urgent issues facing the state of Texas right now. Governor Greg Abbott has just released his summary of the latest legislative session, and he joins us live from Austin right now. So first of all, Governor, thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Well, Governor, before we get to that report, I have to ask you about plummeting oil prices that directly affect us right here in West Texas. Fear of the coronavirus and the rift between Russia and Saudi Arabia are causing prices to go down. Now, if this trend continues, what kind of safeguards can your office put into place to help oil and gas industry right here in West Texas?
Well, you know, we've been through this so many times before. You remember we went through this, and I think it was like 2016 when it went down even lower than it is right now.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us, Governor. We know you're busy, so we will let you get back to the business of the state.
It's my pleasure. Thank you all. All the best.
Well, a historic day in West Texas as President Donald Trump visits the basin today. Good afternoon, I'm Eddie Flores.
And I'm Amanda Mason. Air Force One just touching down at Midland International Airport moments ago.
Well, our very own Jacob Sloan is live at MAF, and he joins us now with a look at what's in store for this big day. Jacob.
Eddie, Air Force One has just landed here at Midland International Airport. You can see right now it is just taxiing off the runway and onto the tarmac here.
Yeah, very good shot out there of Air Force One. It looks almost majestic.
You know what? Very majestic, very historic. It's just exciting to see, you know, a current president right now coming into our area.
In fact, there he is right now.
There he is.
The President of the United States, everyone, Donald Trump. His motorcade is going to head all the way down to downtown Odessa at the Marriott Hotel. That's where they're going to have the big fundraiser. Yeah. And there's a lot of, I guess they're blocking a lot of roads on the way to get there. So don't be surprised if you're out there and you see the president go by. Not sure if they're going to block off I-20, but it doesn't look like there's much traffic on it right now. But we understand that Feliz Romero, Big Two's Feliz Romero is at the Marriott Hotel right now, waiting for that motorcade to arrive, and we can go to her. Feliz, what do you see out there?
Good afternoon, Eddie and Amanda. The president is here, and he is on his way to the Odessa Marriott, where I am here.
The route that he will take on his way to the new Odessa Marriott Hotel.
Yes, and we're getting reports that not specifically I-20, but we know that he's going to be coming down this route. Again, the live coverage, and we see a lot of people out there with flags, ready to see the president come in with his entire, vehicle entourage that he has. He does have several supporters here in West Texas that are lined up and ready to greet him.
Yeah, he's got a lot of supporters here
he does.
in West Texas, and I understand and now we see the motorcade. Told you there'd be motorcycles.
Yes, there they are, the motorcycles. Big Tuesday, Jake Eichstadt joins us live from the site just outside of Midland. Jake, what is the president expected to talk about during his visit?
Yeah, Eddie, Amanda, we are expecting him to address the public very soon, in fact, very, very soon, about the update or the current state of the oil and gas sector. Now, if you guys look, many of the high-profile people the president has had accompanying him.
Still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless.
Friday Night Lights means it's time for the final score. Your home for hard hits, big plays, and the Basin's #1 football show. The Final Score, brought to you by these sponsors.
Well, what has felt like the longest off season ever is now officially over. Some of the biggest moments from that season last year, Rankin going to the semifinals, Greenwood as well. But high school football, it's back in the great state of Texas. Ben Peck, Aaron Reynolds, excited to take you on another wild journey here on the Final Score.
Yes, I'm so excited.
This is a Big 2 News special presentation. West Texas Hidden History, honoring Black history.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for this special presentation of Hidden History, honoring Black History Month. I'm Clark Finney. The plight of African Americans across the country is a long, hard-fought story. We start this evening remembering one of the champions of the civil rights movement throughout history, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Well, good evening and welcome to this special report remembering George H.W. Bush. I'm Katie Orth. This evening we are celebrating the life of President 41. The Bush name has become synonymous with the state of Texas. And while George H.W. Bush started his political career in Houston, it all began when he moved across the country to the Permian Basin.
George H.W. Bush, the 41st President of the United States, and the patriarch of a political dynasty.
Through all the trials and tribulations, George H.W. Bush stood tall and always enjoyed life.
But just because you're an old guy, you don't have to sit around drooling in the corner. Get out and do something. Get out and enjoy life.
A great reminder tonight. Thank you so much for joining us in celebrating the life of George H.W. Bush.
Live from Midland, Odessa, and Big Spring, we're Basin Trusted, Basin Proud. This is Big 2 News at 10.
Oil and gas struggling this week. Good evening. I'm Katie Orth.
And I'm Jacob Sloan in for Eddie Flores. OPEC announcing cuts in projected global demand. Now the price of oil dropping.
Big Tuesday, Jake Eichstadt has been looking into this for us tonight. So, Jake, what are the experts saying?
Katie, Jacob, they say that this is just another bump on the 2020 road to recovery. No doubt this has been a tough year for the whole industry, and the producers I talked to said that they had hoped that 2021 would look a little brighter. However, with these cuts coming from, or the projection cuts coming from OPEC, it's looking like next year will be a lot of the same.
Not any good news at all to us. We need higher prices above 50 before you see the economic recovery happen out here.
Countrywide, worldwide, we're still not consuming the fuel like we thought.
More bad news for oil and gas producers. OPEC announced cuts to projections of demand for this year and next, causing prices to fall more than 10% in just over a week.
I think what's happening is the producers are saying, hey, we don't want you flooding oil into the United States again like you did in April, May, and June. We're going to lower our price too. So please, refiners, keep buying our oil first before you buy any foreign crude.
A big reason, air fuel is still not being burned.
We're going to see some really bad numbers from that industry through the end of the year because people just aren't getting on airplanes.
Also, some big players like BP are shifting away from oil and gas and towards renewables and natural gas.
They're taking the view that, now more people are going to go renewables than ever before. And people have been going renewables. There's still going to be huge demand for crude oil and natural gas for many years to come, and it'll still carry the lion's share of all energy. The renewables will cut into our growth rate some, but we still got forecasted growth, I believe.
Experts say the current price still allows for profit for producers, but not to drill.
But again, what everybody has to realize is, $40 is probably a good number to produce that. We can't drill for that. So the oil producers, you're not going to see that rig count go up until we get $55, $60 oil, and they can have it hedged in for a couple of years.
Now, McGraw says that this is actually beneficial for the Permian if you look at it from an economics perspective. OPEC can hopefully keep that global supply-demand equation more balanced. Now, they agreed to those historic cuts a few months ago earlier this year. Those cuts continue, just not to the same number. It's about a couple million barrels difference. McGraw says if anybody can keep that equation in check, it's OPEC. Reporting in Odessa, Jake Eichstead, Big 2 News.
All right, Jake, thank you for that live report tonight. The Trump administration is throwing America's heartland a lifeline.
That's right. The EPA announcing changes to keep corn-based fuel available at the pump longer. The organization also vowed to deny dozens of oil refineries' requests to skip out of ethanol blending requirements.
While some Republicans are praising the president for supporting rural America, Democrats are holding their applause.
We've had probably the worst year in the industry's history. We were dealing with the impacts of these refinery waivers, of some trade barriers, and then we got hit with COVID-19.
Trump has spent 3.5 years, every day of his presidency, undercutting biofuels demand.
American fuel and petrochemical manufacturers say the EPA is hurting drivers.
Saying the majority of the auto fleet can't take the fuel. The organization is challenging the EPA in court. The oil and gas industry is now a growing point of contention in this year's presidential election. President Trump announcing he will extend a ban on new offshore drilling.
Yeah, and that's while Joe Biden, the Democratic presidential nominee, proposed a plan to end federal oil and gas leasing. Big 2's Anna Warnicki has more.
With President Trump restricting offshore drilling until 2032 and Joe Biden promising to ban oil and gas leasing on federal lands, many in the oil industry are concerned about the future. Mike Summers with the American Petroleum Institute says both plans will be devastating.
About 17% of America's oil production is from the offshore in the Gulf of Mexico. And another tremendous amount of production happens on federal land.
Summers says a recent report by API shows that losing access to federal lands and offshore waters would result in nearly 1 million jobs lost by 2022.
Energy prices would go up, your economic security, of course, would go down, but the implications from a national security perspective would be tremendous as well.
Robert McIntyre with the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association says states like New Mexico have the most to lose because most of its oil production happens on federal land.
We would lose estimated 62,000 jobs within a year.
And McIntyre says the state relies on oil and gas for most of its funding.
And that's money that we use to fund infrastructure, to provide access to health care.
Summers says the oil industry is already struggling from the pandemic and hopes the candidates reconsider.
This would come at exactly the worst time for the industry, and the implications would just be tremendous on American families.
In Washington, I'm Anna Warnicki.
Well, we are inching closer and closer to Election Day.
That's right, and as we get there, here's some key dates to keep in mind. Mail-in ballots begin going out September 19th. The deadline to submit a vote by mail application, that's October 23rd.
Early voting runs October 13th through the 30th, and Election Day is on November 3rd. The ACLU of Texas launched their Let Texans Vote campaign this week. The one-stop online resource has all the information Texans need to navigate this 2020 election, including voting process information, ID requirements, vote by mail qualifications, and translations. The organization's director wants Texans to feel safe and confident when they cast their vote this election.
People are confused because of COVID and some of the scary messages that are coming out about voting. So why we launched this website, Let Texans Vote, to give people people the confidence to vote. Whoever you're voting for, however you're voting, we want people to know what their rights are and how they can vote.
You can find a link to the online resources on our website, yourbasin.com. There you can also read more about candidates running this November.
Ector County will now continue trials in person for the first time since March. Jury selections will not be held at the courthouse, but at the Ector County Coliseum. There will not be as many jurors selected as normal. Some summons are already on the way, in fact, but the district clerk says safety measures will be taken during selection.
Their temperature will be taken before they come in. They'll be seated in a location that is a minimum of 6 to 8 feet from any other jurors.
Any resident who gets their summons is encouraged to fill out the COVID-19 screening questions online ahead of time. Also at the Commissioners Court meeting today, officials voting to raise the county-wide tax rate. Sewer and water rates were also increased. No word yet on just how much.
Midland ISD starting phase 3 today, just as the district votes in a new interim superintendent. Midland ISD naming a new person in charge at a board meeting last night. This comes as students started to head back to class in person. Here are some photos from the first day of MISD's 3-phase blended learning plan. And here's a look at the new superintendent. Dr. Ann Dixon will now take over the role of superintendent starting September 21st. Dixon is taking over for the acting superintendent and CFO of the district, Daryl Dodds. Dodds replaced Superintendent Orlando Riddick after the board voted him out unanimously. The district also dealing with controversy at that board meeting. A committee to rename Midland Lee High School is expected to meet this week and narrow down options for a new name. Stay updated right here on The Process on Big 2 News.
The Sibley Nature Center is reopening, but things are going to look a little different now. The Nature Center opening for the first time tomorrow. Masks are mandatory. Hand sanitizing stations will be placed around the center.
We're very excited to be reopening. It's been a long wait, but we've been able to give the center a deep clean, declutter, and move around our exhibits. So we're happy to have people coming back in.
49 acres of trails, and the center sits on Hogan Park in Midland. It'll open its doors at 9 tomorrow morning.
A team of independent investigators is nearing the end of their 2-week investigation into the leadership and policies at Fort Hood.
Yeah, and this comes after a series of death and sexual harassment incidents. One soldier's mother now speaking out after her son killed himself at the base.
11 months later, their family is still waiting on the results of the death investigation and the autopsy report.
I have no idea what happened between June and November. He left here happy, excited, hopeful. But if they had put half as much effort into saving him, we wouldn't have needed the funeral or the memorial. But there's a lot of devastated families who lost their children at Fort Hood, and they deserve for people to say their names.
Fort Hood says they provide mental health resources for soldiers who are stationed there.
And we asked Fort Hood how long it takes for families to get the results of death investigation, and we have not heard back.
And coming up, we're still dealing with that flood warning along the Rio Grande. A significant amount of rainfall fell in Presidio County, and now that's leading to this flood warning lasting until Thursday morning, 1:30 a.m. Central Time, overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning. Now, I'll take a look at our rain chances for the next coming days here in the basin coming up after the break.